Good evening, my friends. I want to start tonight by asking you something that might seem strange. Where is yesterday? Not what happened yesterday, not what you remember about it. Where is it? Where does it exist right now at this moment? Take a moment. Really try to find it. You can't point to it. You can't travel to it. It's not behind you in any physical sense, not in the room you were in, not in the body you inhabited, not preserved somewhere in a dimension of reality where past events continue to unfold. Yesterday is nowhere. It doesn't exist. And yet, and this is what I need you to feel the weight of tonight, you are carrying it everywhere you go. You are carrying conversations that happened years ago as though they are happening right now. You are carrying the weight of failures that ended long ago as though they are still in progress. You are carrying shame from moments that no longer exist anywhere in the physical universe. And that shame is shaping your choices today, determining what you reach for, what you shy away from, what you believe is available to you, and what isn't. You are living under the influence of something that does not exist. And tonight I'm going to show you that because it doesn't exist, because it has no location, no permanence, no fixed reality outside your consciousness, you have a power over it that you have never been taught to use. You can change it, not metaphorically, not symbolically, not as a comforting refrain. Actually change it, because it only exists in one place, your imagination, right now, in this present moment. And imagination, as I have been teaching you all your life, can always be revised. Let me first dismantle a belief you have held since childhood, because it is the belief that is holding you in a prison whose walls are made entirely of your own thinking. The belief is this: the past is fixed. What happened, happened. Events are carved in stone. Your history is a permanent record, immovable and real, and you must carry it every moment of rejection, every failure, every humiliation, every wound as a given, as the bedrock of who you are. This belief feels self-evident. It feels like realism. It even feels like integrity, as though refusing to accept the permanent reality of your past is a form of cowardice or delusion. But I want to look at it very carefully tonight, because this belief, more than almost anything else I have ever encountered, is the thing that keeps intelligent, sincere, deeply committed people in states of consciousness that do not serve them, regardless of how faithfully they practice, regardless of how genuinely they desire to change. Here is what is actually true. The past does not exist anywhere except in your consciousness as memory, as thought, as imagination, occurring right now in this present moment. Think about what memory actually is. When you remember something that happened 5 years ago, you are not accessing a cosmic archive of fixed events. You are not traveling back in time. You are not retrieving an exact recording of what occurred. You are imagining right now, in this moment. You are constructing from fragments, from feeling, from the current state you happen to be in, a mental representation of what you believe happened. And that representation, that construction, that imaginative act is happening now, not 5 years ago. Now, and if remembering is imagining, and it is then what remembering creates, is subject to exactly the same law as every other imaginative act. What you imagine becomes what you experience. Now let me show you why this is not an abstraction, why this is the most immediately practical, urgently relevant thing I could possibly teach you. Every memory you hold is not just a neutral record of past events. Every memory carries a state. And that state, the emotional, psychological, consciousness level reality produced by the memory, is active right now. It is shaping your present assumptions, your present identity, your present creative output with the same force as any deliberate imaginal act. When you remember being rejected, you are not simply recalling a fact from the past. You are being, in this moment, someone who was rejected. You are generating the state of rejection in your present consciousness. And that state carried into your day, your conversations, your choices, your subtle signals to others, creates more rejection. When you remember failing, you are not storing a historical data point. You are being, right now, someone who failed. The state of failure is alive and operating in your consciousness. And from that state, more failure must manifest. When you remember being humiliated, unloved, betrayed, insufficient, you are not just preserving the past. You are generating those states in the present from which they must continue to project forward. Your memory is not a record, it is a creative force, and it is operating on you continuously, shaping your consciousness, determining what you assume to be true about yourself and about what is available to you every moment of every day. This is why you can visualize abundance forward every night and still find yourself in the same financial reality week after week. It's not that the visualization isn't working, it's that behind the visualization, underneath it, running through every waking hour with the accumulated weight of years, is the memory of not having enough, of money being scarce, of things not working out. And that memory, repeated 1,000 times in the ordinary act of daily remembrance, is producing the state of lack with a consistency and force that the visualization practiced for 1 hour cannot overcome. You are trying to move forward into a new state while your memories are continuously pulling you back into the old one. Revision is how you finally free yourself. Let me tell you about a man who came to me carrying something he could not put down. Years earlier, he had launched a business, the thing he'd believed in most in his life, the fullest expression of what he thought he was capable of. It had collapsed. Publicly, humiliatingly, completely. He had lost not just money, but standing, confidence, the regard of people whose respect mattered to him. By the time he found me, years had passed. The event itself was long over. He wasn't thinking about it consciously. And yet every time he considered starting something new, every time the possibility of building again arose in him, something would happen inside. A contraction, a withdrawal, a voice that said, "Remember what happened last time." He was not being haunted by the past. He was being created by it continuously, every day, through the act of remembering. I asked him, "Where does this event exist right now?" He looked at me. "Show me where it is," I said. "Point to it. Find it in the room. Take me to where it actually exists." He couldn't, because it doesn't exist, not anywhere except in his imagination of it. "Then revise it," I said. He resisted. "But it happened. I can't change what happened." "You're not changing what happened," I told him. "What happened is gone. It doesn't exist. You are changing what you are imagining right now, which is the only place it lives." He began to practice. Every night he went back to that scenario in imagination, not to replay the failure, to reimagine it, the launch succeeding, the company thriving, himself celebrated, confident, proven right, not as fantasy, as memory, as if this is what had actually occurred. He did this night after night. And over weeks, something he hadn't expected happened. The shame dissolved. Not because he had talked himself out of it, not because he had found reasons to forgive himself or reframe the experience, but because the imaginative act that was generating the state of shame, the repeated remembering of failure, had been replaced by a different imaginative act generating a different state. He was no longer carrying the state of someone who had failed. He was carrying the state of someone who had built something real. From that state, without effort, without forcing, with the natural effortlessness of someone operating from the right inner ground, he built a business that succeeded. Not despite his past, from a revised one. Now let me give you the technique precisely and completely. Step 1. Identify the memory. Find a specific memory that is creating an unwanted state in your present consciousness. not a vague sense that things haven't worked out, a specific event, a specific conversation, a specific moment of rejection, failure, loss, humiliation, betrayal. Something you can close your eyes and see, that when you do see it, produces a recognizable negative shift in how you feel about yourself and what is possible for you. Step 2. Locate it. This step is more important than it sounds. Before you revise the memory, find it. Where does it actually exist right now? It is not in the past. The past is gone. It exists only in your imagination, occurring right now, in this present moment. Feel the full truth of that. The event itself, the actual, physical, real event, no longer exists anywhere. What you are holding is an imaginative act, and imaginative acts can be changed. Step 3. Revise it. Close your eyes. Return to the scenario. But this time, let it go differently. Not as fantasy, not as wishful thinking, but as memory, as if this is what actually happened. If you were rejected, imagine acceptance. Hear the yes. Feel the welcome. Let it be as specific and sensory as the original memory. If you failed, imagine the success, the moment it worked, the faces around you, the feeling in your body when you knew it was real. If you were humiliated, imagine being honored, heard, respected, seen. Make it vivid. Make it feel real. Make it feel like a memory, because that is exactly what it is becoming. Step 4. Persist until it settles. The original memory feels solid because you have imagined it thousands of times. Repetition is what gave it weight. So you must repeat the revised version until it accumulates the same weight, the same naturalness, the same quality of course, that's what happened. This takes time. It takes nightly practice. It takes patience with the process. But it works not through some mystical mechanism, but through the precise, reliable law of consciousness. What you most consistently imagine becomes what you most deeply assume. And what you most deeply assume creates your experience reality. Step 5. Notice the state shifting. This is how you know it is working, not by watching for external changes, but by watching what happens inside when you call up the memory. The original memory made you contract. The revised one, as it settles in, as it becomes the dominant imagining, will make you expand, lighter, more capable, more like someone who has already won the thing you are trying to win. That shift in state is the work. The external changes are the inevitable consequence of the work. Now, I want to address something subtle that makes revision particularly powerful and that most people miss entirely. Your present state is already revising your memories constantly, without your permission, without your awareness. You have experienced this. The same childhood event remembered in depression versus remembered from a place of healing, two completely different stories, two completely different emotional realities. The same conversation recalled when you are afraid versus when you feel secure, almost unrecognizable as the same event. Your consciousness is not passively storing memories. It is actively reinterpreting them, moment to moment, through the lens of whatever state you currently occupy. When you are in a state of unworthiness, your memories rearrange themselves to confirm that unworthiness. They cluster together, find patterns, emphasize the rejections and the losses and the failures. They build a case. When you are in a state of capability and worth, the same memories reorganize. Different moments come forward. Different meanings emerge. The same life reads as a story of resilience rather than defeat. This is already happening, right now, below your awareness. The only question, and this is the question that revision answers, is whether it will happen consciously or unconsciously. Whether you will let your current states keep pulling your past into alignment with limitation, or whether you will deliberately, intentionally, with full understanding of what you are doing, revise your past into alignment with the state you have chosen to occupy. Revision is not the introduction of a foreign power into your consciousness. It is the conscious use of a power that has been operating in you your entire life. I want to give you one more practice that will transform your daily experience. At the end of each day before sleep, in the quiet minutes when the conscious mind is growing soft and the imaginative faculty is most receptive, review your day. Not to judge it, not to catalogue your failures or grade your practice, to revise it. Go through the hours that have passed and find the moments that created unwanted states, the conversation that left you feeling dismissed, the interaction where you didn't say what you wished you had, the moment of self-doubt that crept in unexpectedly, the email that stung, the silence that felt like rejection. These moments exist now only as memory, only as imagination in the present. So reimagine them. The conversation where you were dismissed, replay it as the conversation where you were heard, where your words landed with weight, where the other person's face showed genuine recognition. The moment of self-doubt, reimagine it as the moment of quiet confidence. You in that same situation but settled in yourself, speaking from the ground of someone who knows what they are. The silence that felt like rejection, reimagine it as companionable quiet, as the comfortable silence of someone who does not need constant external affirmation. Do this every night, not to live in denial of what occurred, but to refuse to carry the state it produced into tomorrow. Because that moment, whatever it was, wherever it happened, exists now only in how you are remembering it, and you can remember it differently. And when you remember it differently, you go to sleep in a different state. And your subconscious, which operates through the night from whatever state you last occupied, works from that different state. And you wake in a different state. And from that different state, you create a different day. This, practiced consistently, is not a technique. It is liberation. Let me say something now about what revision is not, because I know some of you have a deep and genuine concern about this. Revision is not the denial of pain. It is not the erasure of difficult experience. It is not the spiritual bypassing of genuine wounds that deserve acknowledgement and care. What it is, and this distinction matters enormously, is the refusal to let the state produced by that pain become the permanent operating system of your consciousness. The event happened, or something happened, something real, something perhaps genuinely difficult, perhaps genuinely unjust. That reality is not what revision touches. What revision touches is the imaginative act you are performing right now when you call that event into consciousness, the state you generate in the present through repeated remembering, the assumption that experience has hardened into about who you are and what you deserve and what is possible. That the present imaginative act and the state it creates, that is what you are revising. You are not rewriting history. You are freeing yourself from being continuously recreated by your version of history. There is a profound difference. Here is the deepest truth of this teaching, and I want you to sit with it carefully. You are not a product of your past. You have been told your whole life that you are, that your childhood formed you, that your traumas shaped you, that your failures defined you, that your history is the most real thing about you, the foundation from which everything else is understood. But the past that formed you does not exist. It exists only as what you are imagining right now. And what you are imagining right now can be changed. This means genuinely, actually, not as a consoling metaphor that you are not imprisoned by anything that has happened to you. Not the rejection, not the loss, not the years of not enough, not the wounds that were real and are real and deserve acknowledgement. None of it has permanent creative power over your present and future, because none of it exists anywhere except in the imaginative act you perform when you remember it. And you can perform that act differently. You can remember not as denial, but as deliberate creative choice, the version of the past that creates the state of the person you are choosing to be. You can remember success where you have been remembering failure. You can remember acceptance where you have been remembering rejection. You can remember belonging where you have been remembering exile. Not because those memories are more factually accurate, but because they create a different state, and the state you are in, moment to moment, is the only thing that has ever actually shaped your reality. The past is not your prison. Your imagination of the past is your prison. An imagination, as I have given my entire life to teaching, you can always be revised. So tonight, before you sleep, I am asking you to do one thing. Find one memory, just one that has been creating an unwanted state in your present consciousness. Something you have been carrying, something that contracts you when you think of it. And revise it, not quickly, not lazily, with full imaginative engagement, with the care and attention of someone who understands what they are actually doing, not changing history, but changing the present creative act of remembering, changing the state, changing the assumption that the state has been silently building. Make the revised version vivid. Make it feel like a memory. Fall asleep in the state it creates. And tomorrow night, do it again. And keep doing it until the revised memory is the one that comes first when you close your eyes. Until it is the one that feels natural, settled, real. Until the original, which was never anything other than an imaginative act to begin with, has simply lost its grip. And from that freed state, from the consciousness of someone who is no longer being continuously recreated by a past that doesn't exist, watch what becomes possible. Watch what you reach for. Watch what you believe you deserve. Watch what the world, which is always and only mirroring your assumptions, begins to show you. Your past is not fixed. Your memory is imagination. And imagination, in this present moment and every moment, creates reality. Revise boldly. Revise faithfully. Revise until the past you carry is the past that creates the future you choose. Good evening. This is Neville Lectures. I'll see you again in the next video.